Drive 87 miles.
Hello.
Hello.
Who's that by phone?
That's me. It's Mariah.
Mariah, how are you? Have we not got
Well,
video with you today?
Well, no. I'm traveling from Maine back to Tennessee, so I'm meeting you in the car while you're in Scotland.
I love it. I love it. We're all over the world.
Thank goodness for
Where we need to be. So you're in a bar.
Yeah, right.
I do love it. What were you doing up in Tennessee?
No, I was up in Maine.
Oh, okay. You're on your way back to Tennessee.
Right. In Maine.
And what were you doing up in Maine? How was that?
Oh, it was wonderful. The fall colors were just gorgeous.
Yeah, they are here in Scotland as well.
Are they?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Some beautiful scenery and some wonderful colors.
Yeah. And actually, I was just getting in touch with a deeper level of me.
Wonderful. Oh, so was that the purpose of the trip?
Well, the purpose of the trip was to really gather people together for this camp, this teaching, this collective of stepping forward into another level of self-sovereignty and leadership and owning your own majesty and mastery.
Oh, well done you. That sounds fantastic.
And I'm getting back to Tennessee to work with a group of high-frequency women about prevention, awareness, prevention, mental health, energetic frequencies, and how that all comes together in the collective.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Is this something that's new for them?
I'd say yes. They've all been pigeonholed into mental health diagnoses, and they've come through their spiritual journey, and they know that's not the case.
Wow. I love that. That's so powerful, because I know a number of years ago I was actually doing quite a bit of work with Kundalini and doing a lot of research and a lot of internal exploring when I was going through some of those Kundalini awakening processes, and it was really quite amazing. And realized how many people get diagnosed with a form of psychosis as a consequence. of some of those experiences. They are dismissed completely, and put on medication, which screws up the fullness of the awakening, and it distorts it, and that's where people end up with some seriously deep mental health issues as well, because it's not allowed to unfold as a natural organic process.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And
Yeah.
you know, Julie, it's time for that to stop.
Yes, yes. And it's just so heartwarming to hear about those initiatives, because I don't care how small the groups are or where it is in the world, every single circle or group that pulls their energy together, that works with things in this way, is anchoring the ninth wave. And what you're doing at the moment, by the way, it's lovely to perhaps think about the fact that the universe has your back, because we are 3 days into the upswing of the ninth wave. We're in a day cycle of the ninth wave, which is perfect for these new projects and initiatives.
Well, I've got cold chills all over, and I can tell you that the intuition has been flowing, the guidance
Yes.
has been flowing, and there have been many shocks if I don't get it the first time, to bring me into that present time awareness so that it can be activated and integrated through physical activity.
Yeah.
And I mean, physical release. And I'm using kayak and gardening, okay, heavy work, plus my brain balancing.
Yes. Yes.
Diamond work. The diamond work.
Fantastic. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's brilliant, Mariah. I just love it. We have Lori and Natalie, and I know. Hello, ladies. How are you? Wonderful to see you. We've just been having this lovely chat with Mariah. She's got some wonderful, exciting project lined up that she's initiating. It's just going back to kick off, and it's just really, really lovely. And I'm up here on the Moray Firth of Scotland, and I was out watching seals earlier. It's just absolutely delightful. And so we've all got something to celebrate. Laurie, congratulations. I saw all your posts on Facebook, sort of you being a gran.
I'm a grandma.
You're a grandma. Congratulations. How's the family?
Oh, everybody's doing wonderful. Yes, we're just so happy and excited.
Fantastic. That's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, wonderful. And Natalie, how are you?
Internet playing kind of crazy.
Yeah, it seems a bit sketchy with the signal. How are you, Nat?
I'm good. My body's been taking a hit, I think, with all the energy that's been coming in the past. I feel like it's been a few weeks, but I've just been getting a lot of sleep and trying to get back.
Yeah, but you know what? And I mean, that's the interesting thing, sort of looking at the whole mirrors aspect of what's going on externally, because we're very fond of saying, well, as within, so without.
Right.
You know? But as without and what we see out there, so within. So this huge alchemy that's been taking place within us, and we've been going through the last 18 days, so it's the last 3 weeks, basically, in the night of the ninth wave. And that is the time when a lot of inner healing, deep introspection, a lot of energy goes into that, releasing that transformation. So it has been a very intense period.
Yes, exactly. Everything you said.
Yeah, you get it, eh? The time-wise, you know, that really has been. And I know the same for me. I mean, as much as I've been wanting to do things and get things done, it's like something always gets in the way.
Right.
And I was with friends with a little 3-year-old, and I mean, talk about being exposed to conscious parenting. It was amazing. This little 3-year-old, I mean, I was fascinated. He comes up to me with this thing he picked up off the carpet. It was a polystyrene bead. So he says, I said, what have you got there, Freddie? He says, oh, it's a little ball. I said, oh, that looks interesting. He says, yes, but you can't eat it because it's polystyrene. 3 years old. Can you believe it? And this is because Morag spends so much time with him. But I was there for like 3.5, 4 days, and I couldn't do a thing. I could not do a thing because there was this 3-year-old around all the time. It was just, Robin, so good that you could join us. Welcome. Can you hear us? Robin?
Okay, I can hear now.
Okay.
Oh, good, fantastic. That's so good. Bunny and Bunny's here. Wonderful. Oh, that's fantastic. Lovely, lovely that you're all here. And Mariah's with us, but she's on phone. She hasn't got the video. You want to say hi, Mariah?
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Oh, welcome,
So
welcome.
thankful that I was able to get online.
Fantastic. Yeah, we are thankful too.
I'm riding in the mountains, so I might come in and out, but I'm with you.
That's amazing. Well, well done, you. That is just fantastic. Yeah. So you'll see I've got a different background again because now I'm in a little B&B. It's like it's an Airbnb, absolutely delightful, on the far northernmost coast of Scotland. And I am really, really hoping, because there is space weather at the moment, that the sky clears tonight, because with the geomagnetic activity, I may get very lucky and see some northern lights. So hold the space. Yeah, no, it would be absolutely wonderful up here if that were to happen. Yeah,
Yes.
be a real treat. So welcome everybody. Are you recording yet, Natalie?
It actually starts at 9, so we are. I think we've been a couple minutes, like a minute or so. So yes, we are on.
Okay. At what point did it start recording? You never know what's gonna
Right.
get. Okay, so we'll welcome everybody. It's really fabulous to have such a wonderful group of women together. Jennifer apologizes. She's going to be on her way to France on a Magdalene tour starting tomorrow. Dao Yi, I'm not sure. I think Dao Yi finds it difficult during the week to join us. So this is us for today, and this is absolutely a wonderful group of magnificent women. So thank you all for making the time and for being here. And what I'd like to just invite you to do, Robin, seeing as you're new to the group, is we would just love to hear a little bit from you in respect of sort of the role that you play in the world. Put it this way, it's not like just what you do, it's the role that you play in the world. Let's just introduce yourself to these other wonderful women. You've seen the earlier videos so that you know we get to share and just have a wonderful time together. So we'd love to just welcome you.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me okay? All right. I live in West Virginia. It's a very rural state in the United States, and I'm kind of just the nature girl. That's just my passion, landscaping and being in nature. I've studied all kinds of healing modalities, and I don't know. I don't really know what to say. I don't have any PhDs. I'm definitely an old soul.
Necessary.
I'm a dabbler for sure. I interested in all kinds of different things, and pretty much self-taught most things. Unfortunately, although I hate to admit it sometimes, I work in the oil and gas industry, and I'm not very, it's kind of against my morals, but it pays good money, and I haven't seen a way out yet. So that's where I am.
Well, that's just absolutely
Awesome.
wonderful that you're here. Awesome, and welcome. And I used to work in the petrochemical industry a number of years ago. So yeah, no, and I loved it. I did. I absolutely loved it when I was there.
I love the work, but to begin with, they tell you what they want you to hear, and then you gradually learn more. You start to have a dilemma, but so far, I'm still there.
Yeah. That was my issue when it got to the point of the little voice became so strong that I had to walk away. It was almost like there was no choice. for me. But I certainly don't judge any of that. I've got some wonderful, wonderful friends who are still in the industry, and that's part and parcel of moving us forward. And they are exploring different ways of doing things. So yeah, we can't. We're not in a position to judge everything, and everybody is in a space of evolving.
Right.
And it all contributes.
You know, so even though this is my livelihood, I so want to see a free energy source that is not detrimental to the environment. So
absolutely, it'll come. It'll come.
Yes, I believe it. Yes.
Will. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we got Rachel. Welcome. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, Robin. And we're just really, really so pleased that you could join us today. That's fantastic. Hello, Rachel. How are you doing? Very quiet. Can you hear? Are you with us?
I can just about hear you now. It was my computer's going on a go slow.
Yeah, so's mine been actually, which is really interesting. I've found it just over the last week or so. It's been slowing down incredibly. So we've got all of these technology influences and implications, not just the connectivity, but the technology seems to be slowing down. So yeah, I'm just sort of taking the message in that. Aside from which, as I was saying to the ladies earlier, I've had so many great ideas and in respect of what I actually want to do, and in respect of moving them forward, there just has not been the space to do that, whether it's been 3-year-olds and conscious parenting or traveling or what it's been. You know, it's kind of, okay. Yeah, we'll go with the flow. That's the only thing to do. So I watched the seals this morning on the Moray Firth.
Oh, wonderful.
And they were delightful. Absolutely delightful. Yeah. So having said all of that, so how are you ladies in respect of the processes and concepts that were introduced in the initial gatherings?
I'm way behind. So I've been traveling as well. I just got back from Ireland. We didn't have very many clear nights. So yeah, I'm way behind, but so.
Okay. You'll have an opportunity to catch up because we're really going to sort of continue the theme. But the article that I sent through with the link yesterday gave a couple of descriptions and definitions of some of the concepts that were introduced in the first 2 sessions through the work of Victor Vernon Woolf that I'm exploring and working with at the moment as a tool for expanding consciousness. So there's some really, really interesting insights, I think, that we can play with and expand on from that. And there's a wonderful meld of his work with the understanding of the 9th wave and how the other waves are impacting us at the moment. So it's going to build as we go along. But okay, so thank you for that, Robin. What about the rest of you ladies? How have you been doing over the last couple of weeks? Done any more work with the Holodynes or any exploration in that area?
Is that the one, the process that we did the last time? I didn't see that one come through, the recording, so I missed that one.
Okay, the video's up on the page. That's kind of one of the things that I did to re-record separately.
So no, I've just been doing the symbols, but I've been aware of just the solution. If there's a problem, the solution's always, thinking of in those terms.
Driving it.
That's been helping.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just a general awareness and actually going with the flow of whatever has actually been coming up for you through this intense time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks. What about, I know. I mean, I had the great ideas in respect of putting the Facebook group up, and like I say, with all of the traveling and the driving and the disruptions and 3-year-olds, it just has not quite worked out the way I anticipated, but that's okay. What about the rest of you in respect of the Holodynes? The video is up on the page, so I just haven't been able to extract that process. yet.
Like,
Oh,
oh, go on, Bonnie.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I found that process really interesting because it took me into a direction that I hadn't considered before. You know, when we started out about looking at what was the thing that was bothering us, if you like, what was the
The
initial
challenge.
the challenge. As I followed it up, it became something completely different, which quite surprised me because that wasn't what I was expecting at all. But it obviously took me into a place that wasn't probably this time. It must be ancestral, or it must be through my DNA, or it must be through another aspect of another life or something, because it didn't feel like it was something that I was, you know, going through at the moment. So that was interesting for me.
Has it opened things up for you in respect of you moving forward, if you like, in the role that you are playing at the moment?
I feel like I've gone in another direction somehow. You know, it's almost as though I'm going forward, and I know what I want to do, and I'm all for it, and right, this is going to be the one, and I'm going to do this, and then it's as if that never existed anymore, and it's just like a little memory of, oh, I was going to go and do that, wasn't I? Now I'm going in this other direction, and now I don't know what's coming in that other direction. Why am I going that way? Do you know what I mean? And so I feel a little bit like I don't feel lost, and I don't feel like everything's been not for a purpose, if that makes sense. But I feel almost like there's something coming that I have no clue about yet, and it's nothing to do with, or it's to do with everything that I've done, or it's nothing to do with everything I've been doing. It's something that I can't see yet, and it's been a little bit frustrating, because I think, what in the heck's the matter with me? Why can't I just go ahead and do that, you know? So that's how I've been feeling a little bit, and you know, lots of heat running through my body as well. Lots and lots of heat just burning up, you know. So I don't know if
Bear
anyone
in
else
mind, that's really interesting what you're saying, Rachel. Bear in mind that everything, all of those solutions. Now, Robin, here's a phrase that you probably wouldn't have heard yet, and that's that the way that we work is tipping things a little bit on their head and understanding that every time we have a challenge or a situation that we need to deal with in our physical reality, is that that challenge is actually being driven by its potential outcome. So it's like the driver of the circumstance is actually the potential, and not the other way around. And I think that's just such a fascinating thing, because it means that the wholeness that we are looking for, that maturity, that potential of our full self, our higher self, actually already exists, and we know that does, but it's that is in the driver's seat, that is driving everything that we experience. So we worked with the process the last time to identify the immature patterns and then the potential that was driving them, and then to link them and bring the mature aspects that would assist in transforming that potential into being through our physical body. And this is some of the work through Victor Vernon Wolf that I said I've really been exploring and absolutely loving, because it just shifts our perceptions. But what I was going to say to you, Rachel, is that all of those potentials exist in hyperspace. And hyperspace is that time, or that concept, if you like, energetic construct that actually has no boundaries. So there's no time and space. The potential for that particular holodyne is simply an enfolded energetic unit that is linked with something here. So it almost doesn't matter whether it's ancestral, in a sense, if you know what I mean, whether it's ancestral or higher self, or wherever it's, because it exists in hyperspace. It exists beyond our boundaries beyond our confines and definitions of what our reality is. So whatever it is, something has shifted, but that definition actually hasn't come into physical reality yet. So to me, that's really exciting, even though it's frustrating, because it's not what we thought. And this work actually challenges all of the controls and the desires that we still have running our perceived reality. So it challenges us to let go of those. Here we've got a lovely paradox. We let go of the control so that we can have more control over our reality. Does that make sense?
Mm.
And that to me is a really, really profound understanding. And that's where I think the last session that we did has been taking us to is challenging. And also we've been through the night of the ninth wave.
Yeah.
Which takes us through massive transmutation. And I think that is what is fueling some of the experiences that we're actually having at the moment. So it's wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
I think you're right in what you're saying, because the conflict comes in this life now, and you're thinking, I should go and do that. I should do this. I should go and do that. Yeah. Why aren't I doing it? What will people? I know it doesn't matter what people think, but what will people think if they see that I'm just sitting here doing nothing, perceived doing nothing?
Nothing.
Yeah, you know, and they have no concept of what it is I'm actually doing. But that's the frustration side, is like, okay, I'm not earning any money. There's nothing on the horizon for me to go and do, but I've got all these gifts that I can share. And yet of course I'm sharing, because I do share with people all the time in my everyday life. But there's this feeling that there's something, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah. And maybe that is some of the work that you can do and perhaps continue with and deepen with the holodynes. With those units of consciousness, in order to assist with some greater clarity,
Yeah, true. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Laurie, Bunny, how are you ladies doing? Oh, Bunny, your microphone's off.
No wonder you couldn't hear me before. I'm a little bit embarrassed. I think I loved the process, and then I think I was looking for something in an email, and then I completely forgot about it, because I think it would have been very helpful, since not this week, but the past 2 weeks were really quite difficult, as you and I had talked, and I think that process would have helped, although I have to say I think I accessed some of that without doing that process, because my responses to things were definitely different than it would have been for me in the old times, where I would be crying about everything that was happening. Instead, when I was quiet, the tears would come, almost like I was releasing during that, asking for that other dimension, asking access. So now I want to go back, and now that you say it, I remember the process. I'm like, please, Bonnie.
Yeah, but it's my fault too. Well, I could say it's my fault, because I was supposed to re-record the process as a separate MP3 so that everybody could use it, outside of that. And then what happened was, it was like people just started organizing my life before I left Salt Lake. And it was just, it was lovely. I had people taking me out for lunch and do here and do that, and I wanted treatment and a client, and then suddenly I'm on the plane, and it's 2 planes in 24 hours, and oh my God, I've got jet lag, and then I recover, and then I go from Suffolk up to Yorkshire, and then Yorkshire up to Scotland, and 3-year-old, and I'm just going, okay. That's just sorry guys, there just hasn't been that space.
We were integrating. It's okay. We were integrating.
Thank you.
And I think that's the beauty of this group. I don't blame you.
No.
The responsibility was mine, and it's okay, because we know as things work perfectly.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, okay, there's a process I can play with some more. But I have been doing my symbols, so.
Okay. Robin, did you do the Old Souls program?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
So you've got the symbols.
Yes.
The brain balancing symbols. Thanks, Bonnie. Thank you for that. And just before we go, because I'd really like Laurie to contribute as well. How have you found it working with the symbols? Because it's really nice to also have a community of other women who've been engaging with them on a daily basis. Or haven't you had chance to work much with them yet? Robin?
Oh, you're asking me.
Yeah.
I worked with them regularly for a while, but lately I have not.
Okay.
Because I was getting ready for the trip and went on the trip, and it was a group, and I really did have every minute planned. So, and then since I've gotten back, it's been pretty hectic.
Full on.
So they're laying right where they always are, where I would see them first thing in the morning, but I haven't picked them back up.
Yeah. Okay. If you can, it really is worthwhile continuing.
And I added the Metatron's cube, so I do 4 of them.
Oh, well done you. Okay, you see, now that would be really, really interesting to see what the development is over time with you using that additional symbol as well.
It's a lot more active. You see a lot of things when you look at Metatron's cube.
Yeah, and it is automatically because of the facets and everything that is encompassed in that. But it's almost like the first 3 brain balancing symbols are really, really important for laying down the neural network to be able to expand.
I do Metatron's cube at the end. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we'll see what happens in the future. So, Laurie, how have you been? Thanks, Robin.
Oh, thank you.
Well, aside from the excitement of the baby finally being here, I have been in a place that I don't know where I am. I'm I'm in a place where I used to help other people out of. In the past, I knew clearly, without a doubt, that my role was to transform lives by awakening consciousness. And I could do that just by walking into a room. I wouldn't even have to say anything. And then at the other extreme of that, I work very deeply with people to help them awaken and recognize who they are beneath this meat suit and how to use that. I couldn't relate with Rachel more in what she said.
Thank goodness.
I work at home. I left the corporation in 2003, and I've been working at home ever since. So, but in the past, I was feeling like I was contributing, like my role was expressing through me, and I had a reason for being, and I was making a difference. And this last 6 months has been my husband also has been developing a successful real estate business, and he also works at home. So I've been helping him as his administrative assistant, as his marketing director, as the operations manager. And so my focus is completely turned from anything that I was engaged in over to his business. And now I feel like I'm in between these two places, between where I want to be growing and expanding my own consciousness in order to once again be of service in some way, and what I should be doing. And because my husband's office is right down the hall from mine, if I want to take time like this, I feel guilty. Like Rachel said, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. What would people think if I perceived of not doing anything? Which causes another great deal of stress on me. Is I want to get up, I want to do my morning routines, and then on my mind it's like, well, I have to do this and this and this and this for my husband's business. And so I find myself just really torn and pulled, and it's getting worse. I do feel like I'm struggling between the evolution and the expansion that I believe is possible if I were to pursue it, and this idea that there's still things that have to be done. So That's where I am.
It's very interesting, Laurie, and also Rachel, and what everybody else has been saying, because it feels for me, and what I see also out there, it's very much as if there's a polarization happening between, you know, you saying what you should be doing. I mean, should is a word that we should take out of, we get rid of it out of our vocabulary completely. That and try and but. And I know you probably come across all of those, because the minute we use the word but, we negate everything that's just been said before it. The should is a conscious conflict. It introduces conflict between what our mind wants us to do and where our heart actually wants to take us, and what our heart knows we need to be doing, where our energy wants to flow. And that is the most important thing. And obviously try, there's no such thing as try. You either do something or you don't. It's as simple as that. So I always say, yeah, take those 3 words out of your vocab as much as possible. Whenever you hear yourself using them, get rid of it. However, just following on from what you were saying, is this sense or feeling that there is a polarization between what the mind wants to perceive and put into action and put into place, and what the heart energy wants to do. And what we really are striving to do is to reharmonize that flow, so that there's a phrase that Vernon Wolf used as part of the evolutionary impulse and this drive towards a higher order. And it's in the article, and he actually says we have to go through a period of negotiated self-interest in order to establish a new level, ultimately, of unity. So you hit this period and stage of conflict, and you then have to go through a negotiated self-interest phase in order to move into higher unity. Has anybody had a chance to look at that article yet that I sent through?
No.
Yeah. If you have a look in that, just let me pull it up while I've got you guys on phone. The negotiated self-interest. It's in a little green box, number 6. He talks about there being an implicate order of growth. And this is really quantum physics. And what he says here, and it's really, really valid to everything that you guys are experiencing. In nature, negotiated self-interest is part of an ongoing process of development. Limited resources, and that be your own energy as a resource, cause increased tension. This presents a potential for conflict. The parties begin a process of negotiation of self-interest within a larger field of species interest. Negotiation results in an adjustment that lifts the situation to a new level of cooperation and unity. Like no other time in history, our understanding of this built-in order becomes essential. And what he's saying is that the whole of nature, the whole of the natural world, elevates to a new level of maturity or evolution through this process. From a bird's eye view, we are transforming from a consumptive caterpillar mentality to a responsible stewardship state of being. Both individual and collective consciousness are transforming according to its natural order, and we must learn to negotiate our own self-interest and the interest of all other humans and life forms at the same time. The key to this order and our transformation as a species will depend on our connection to hyperspace and our connection to each other and to nature. So the ability to connect to hyperspace is the ability to connect with our unrealized potential and the unrealized potential for all of life, so we can also support the connection with that for other species. And the sacred white animals, to me, are part and parcel of that particular infrastructure, that pattern. But the little chart, if you look at it, it says we go from one level of unity which you can think of as in, you know, sort of family units and society that is operated in a specific way. What happens is we then get challenged by limitation of resources. So as we have more and more information coming in, and we have the energetics of things actually shifting, it's like we are spreading those resources in so many different ways that they become limited in all of those directions. So we have limited resources in order to fulfill all of those needs. That creates increased tension, and it results in conflict. Where we then go to is a position of negotiated self-interest. So we need to set some boundaries down and to relook at those, go through a period of adjustment, and establish a new level of unity. So does that make sense to you guys? Where's my Zoom thingy gone? Sorry, there we go. Sorry, I was reading that. Does that make sense? Because I think that is really, really important, and it doesn't matter whether this is in a corporate community, or a unified field, whether it is within the collective consciousness as a unified field, whether it is our family unit as a unity, as an aspect of unity, our local community, the social community, whatever it might be, there is a negotiated self-interest that actually has to take place in respect of releasing that tension that we are feeling or experiencing in order to move us into a new level of unity. And the tension comes about because there are certain holograms that you guys are receiving in respect of this alignment with the ninth wave, which says that you can see things also that other people can't. You are just so way ahead of the curve that everybody else is struggling to catch up. So it's really, really important, I think, to negotiate those resources. Our energy wants to be 10 steps ahead of the game. We can't be there. We can't be there all at the time because we are busy making those adjustments within community at the moment. So it is, does that make sense, guys? So it is absolutely a time right now where we need to be able to renegotiate that space, whether it means that once every 2 weeks, Laurie, you know, that the negotiated self-interest becomes, this is my time, like once a day or whatever it is, for being able to sit and access my higher self, to receive that guidance and to be able to fully connect with where the flow wants to take you. And maybe the negotiated self-interest aspect becomes that some of what you do has to be subcontracted out to an assistant on behalf of your husband, you know, your husband's business, for instance. Just, you know, just kind of like throwing things out there, but it's really, really important to do that because that's the reason for the conflict, and that's where the conflict is actually taking us. And the same thing is actually happening on a much bigger level. So we're going to be renegotiating almost on a constant basis as we expand into the holograms of the ninth wave and the new unified fields that are busy being anchored within our reality. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's interesting what you say, really, because nobody is putting any pressure on me. In fact, John's saying, yep, you do what you need to do, it's fine. You know, there is no external pressure on me. It's that feeling, I think, for myself, like there must be something coming.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is, and I don't know, you know, I'm trusting my direction, I'm following the breadcrumbs, I'm doing everything I possibly can to expand myself, which is ultimately what I want to do. And so I know I'm going in the right direction, but I don't recognize this direction. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that feeling. But yeah, what you've just said makes so much sense, because like I have a group on a Monday and we talk about the ninth wave. Even though I get blank faces, they trust me. And, you know, I've said to them, just by you knowing about the ninth wave actually helps. And then Sean Caulfield had put something on
Yeah.
Facebook the other day with a little affirmation, and I wrote it all down and I shared that with them. And I know that on some level they got it, but on another level they didn't get it. But it's so interesting that for me, I look and I say, when I'm sharing what I know to people, you see people shut down, you know, and it's like they're not understanding anymore, and it's like, oh, just shut up, Rachel, stop talking, stop trying to, you know, make people see what you're seeing. But it's almost like you want people to you want to engage with people. I want to be able to talk with people about what it is I'm thinking and believing, but also at the same time, you're thinking and believing a certain thing, and then all of a sudden that doesn't exist anymore, and now I'm going down this way. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah. And that's really interesting because, and that's, I think, one of the challenges of being an old soul, because you have so much history that you're actually drawing on. And the old souls also tend to have visionary qualities. So it's like you can see and you know what the potential is, and others can't. Okay. The thing is that the vision and what we see is sometimes so far ahead that there's no way that that the average person is going to be able to comprehend. So we sit with the frustration of holding that vision and not being able to articulate and communicate so much of it. And I think where we find the peace in that process is to bring it back down to the little things and the little differences that we can make on an everyday basis, whether that just becomes a discussion with somebody. They're not going to understand sort of the space weather and the cosmic cycles. I mean, I've tried that. I've tried that for years, you know, and people, as you say, it's just like completely shut down. It's like this big picture stuff. And I get so excited because I can see something. You know, they're never going to get it. The average person is never going to get it because you're busy drawing them in from behind. So it's like bringing it down to what can we do on an everyday basis? What differences, what changes, what shifts can we make on an everyday basis? And maybe it means, yes, so while that vision is forming for you, Rachel, because it's changed, you know, because the hologram has changed and you've gone through a transformation. So it's never going to stay the same. You know, it's like being in the flow. It's like, okay, that's okay. So maybe it's a wonderful opportunity to hold your energy and just be a lighthouse, maybe in a volunteer position. You love nature. You love nature. Where can you add your energy that will be an educational complement, if you like, that will support the natural world? For instance, I don't know, you know, but something will probably come up that will enable you to do it, that may increase that personal value. So it's like you, Natalie, with your photography, you know, or with whatever it is that you want to do. Where can that be applied on a practical basis? And Robin, you were saying, you know, unfortunately you're still in the corporate world. Well, you know what? Some people need to be in the corporate world because they are holding that expanded energy for change, possibility, and potential in that environment. And it's really, really important that they do that. You know?
Yeah, I get that, but I also feel like the others that I'm trying to make a transition and I'm just stuck there, and my message keeps being to be patient, and I'm like, damn it. Yeah. There's this, I want to do something more. Yes. I want to move out of this into that, but yeah.
And the only reason is because you are so far, all of you are just so far ahead of the collective. And that's where getting back into the flow is really, really supportive, because we are meant to embody through our physical form that vision ultimately. So it's not living out there and trying to convince people of what it is that you can see and the potential. It's embodying it. And I've got, I mean, as you were saying, Rob, I've got a wonderful story as well, is that it goes back to sort of 1999, I think it was, with the second petrochemical company that I worked for. And I was only with them for 16 months because by then I'd already started waking up, and I just, the energetics of it was something else. But I had all of these great ideas. I wanted a budget. I wanted to create a chill out room for people, you know, and for my team. And I was trying to introduce my team that I had and the sales reps and everybody to the benefits of color therapy. I wanted to shift the environment that everybody was working in, and you know, and everybody just kept saying to me, Jules, you're just too idealistic. No, we're not going to give you a budget for that. And I'm saying, but this is, you'll get greater productivity from people. Give me a budget, I'll do it. I don't mind doing it. No. And even with the team that I had, you know, there were certain people who were interested in some of the sprays and the bottles and the colors that I would have on my desk. And I was at a pile of crystals, and they would come in and go, what's that for? I go, oh, well, you know, it's for this and that. And I would say, well, you know, pick 3 and I'll do you a quick reading. And they'd be going, oh, you know, that's just amazing kind of thing. Here's their sales manager, like doing color readings, you know. But what was so interesting for me, and that's where I really became more at ease with this flow versus what we can see in the potential and the vision, was one of the girls that I worked with, we went through some really, really interesting training that I introduced them to on top of all of this other stuff that was going on. And it made a difference for a while, and then I left the company, so things kind of like went back to normal. But oh no, take that word out. And fast forward now. Stop, cancel. And fast forward now, sort of 12 years. One of the girls that worked in the team that I had left the company, and she was getting interested in all things alternative and so on and so forth. She happened to connect with my color therapy teacher in South Africa, and saw that my name was on the list of color therapists, and had a chat with Penny. And Penny said to me that Trudy said to her, she said, you know what, when Julie was trying to tell us all this stuff 12 years ago, we actually didn't have a clue what she was talking about. Now I realize that she was just ahead of the game. She was just so far in the future. Now is the time that those seeds that she planted are actually taking root.
Nice.
And that for me was really, really important, because we talk about that. We talk about sowing seeds. We talk about, you know, sort of being the ones who are seeding the future. And that's what it means. And it means being at peace with the fact that we can't convince people to see the way that we do. We can be responsible for just sowing little seeds in whichever practical way is actually possible, because we are expanding way beyond even the old forms that we were familiar with up to this point, because the 9th wave is really taking hold, and that evolutionary impulse is expanding and it's growing. We're just dropping those seeds in for others to be able to pick up, and we have to be a piece of that, because I think so often, because we see the potential, we go out there and we want to fix the world. And we want to fix everybody. And we can't. And that's part of the negotiated self-interest, you know, also for ourselves. It's just, it is not possible to do that. Anyway, so I just want to hand over to you guys, just to give you an opportunity to input on some of those ideas. Yeah.
Can I just share something with you all really quickly? I mean, I've only really spoken about this to one person. My dad's youngest sister died very suddenly, actually, a couple of weeks ago. And she's only 5 years older than me. And her brother actually died in June. So they were her and her other sister were going on holiday to, you know, because they were both devastated. And she lived on her own, and she actually fell bringing her suitcase down the stairs, and her, you know, bashed her head and died really suddenly. So it was a massive shock to everybody. But they're Catholic, and I actually went to the funeral, and it was very, very interesting because I didn't feel like I was being disrespectful, but I didn't want to wear black because when Neil died, I said, please wear colours, let's make it a celebration. And there were a lot of people there. I wasn't like, you know, very garish or anything. It wasn't bright colours, but I was, you know, very smart, but not in black. And I was one of the only people not in black. And I'm sat in the church, and it was an hour and a half requiem mass with 2 priests. And I've never experienced that before in my life for a funeral. But what was really interesting was I felt as though, how can I describe this? Like I was separate to everybody else. It felt as though I was there, me, and then all this other people, like it was 2 separate things, if that makes sense. And while I was listening to the words, and I was fascinated actually by the words they were using, because it felt very, a lot of it felt very pagan, and then some of it felt very controlling and very trapping. And I'd actually, when I went to see her body a couple of days before, I felt myself, I didn't do it consciously, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to do this. It just came to me. I didn't feel sadness or anything, to set the intention that her soul went to the light and didn't get in the loop, sort of thing. And I'm like, okay, what's that all about? Okay. And then during the mass, I was sitting there and I was told, I heard this, you know, send your energy out to everybody in the congregation, send love out to them, to remind them who they really are. And I was like, can I do that? Am I allowed to do that in a church, in a funeral? Can I do that? I don't want to be interfering. I don't want to be doing that. And then I heard it again. You're just sending out love. That's all you're doing, is sending it. And then I could feel myself, oh, I'm shivering even thinking of it. I could feel myself just sending out these waves to all the congregation. And then when we came out, because I was walking behind the coffin with the family, and there were all these other hundreds of people, it was the strangest feeling. I felt as though I was 10 feet tall, and that everybody could see me. And I was looking around. Now, I don't do that. I don't want to be a center of attention ever. But I was walking and saying, can you all see me? Can you see me? I'm like 10 feet tall, you know. And I had high heels on as well, which I very rarely use, so I did feel taller. But there was this whole sense of, I was touching all of these lives as I walked back down. It was the strangest thing. And of course, if you say this to anybody, they'll think, oh, you're a bit up yourself and get a grip and all that, you know. But that was, and I was like, are you sure I can do that? But it was from love, so yeah, do it. But it was, I felt like you're saying, it's about the sowing the seeds, and you know. And even somebody said to me not long ago, she started seeing patterns, and she got in touch with me because obviously I've spoken to her about these things before. And she said, it's so weird, it's so weird. And I said, well, you know, now you know all the things I've been saying to you. And of course, I try and keep it a bit muted. And she said to me, to be honest, she said, I used to think you were a little bit crazy. I said, I am.
Yeah. And that's okay. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, we are doing things, even if it's not perceived that we are doing anything. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just ask who's on the phone so I can say hello?
It's Mariah.
Hi, Mariah.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Well, with all of it, yeah.
My impression of that is, Rachel, that you had the opportunity to define your divine self. That was your calling. That was your message. And you did that by spreading the love.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Wonderful insight, Mariah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it's remembering things like that and those occurrences, whenever you fall into that questioning and to the self-doubt, into the, you know, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
And all of the, what's the word, sort of the restructuring that is actually happening around the roles that we are playing at the moment, because of necessity, whenever there is a restructuring, there has to be a breakdown of an old form in order for a new to actually take its place. So there's a huge amount of uncertainty and instability that goes along with those transitionary periods. And because we are ahead of the game, or ahead of the curve, or, you know, sort of whichever way you want to view it, I think getting ourselves into the energetic flow and staying connected with hyperspace, if you like, with our higher selves, our future potential self, and holding that connection is really, really important. Otherwise, you're on unstable ground. You get dragged into the polarization that is actually happening within the physical reality. Does that make sense? I'm just kind of like talking as it's flowing. That's,
Well, but she did that. You know, the fact that she had heels and colors, but she had the sense that others, she was above, not in an egotistical way,
no.
but in a way of recognizing really that majesty that she has within herself to resonate with gifts that she has, and they don't have to be packaged in any way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's to open up and let them flow.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, yeah, thank you, Mariah. You know, it's interesting that you've just said that, because I've got a couple of notes that I've scribbled of other, you know, sort of conversational topics here. And one of them, I was watching and listening to somebody talking about this whole concept and idea of samadhi. Now, I don't know if you know about samadhi. Samadhi is the whole cessation of the self, little self. Okay, it's like when the little self disappears, kind of thing, and you rest into the ultimate knowingness of who you are beyond the confines of the self, if you like. So samadhi in general, SAMADHI, is about cessation of the self. But there was something, let me get the page out here. Here's what I was looking at. The person that we grow into is a mask that's worn over emptiness. So samadhi is about becoming empty. When we are awake, we don't become identified with our character, but neither do we give up playing a role. Samadhi is the awakening from the dream of your character in the play of life. And in essence, to be empty and to let go of the desires means that we can engage more fully in life, because we actually recognize that it is actually just a role that we are playing. So it takes, does that make sense? And that, to me, there's a huge amount of wisdom in this. Just let me see what else is actually written here. Samadhi is the awakening from the dream of your character in the play of life. But you awaken from the dream of your character, and at the same time, you are then able to engage more fully with life. With all of, and whether that engagement with life is sending out love in a congregation, because that's what you're actually told to do. It's like, oh, that's right, I'm actually here and I'm playing a role at the moment. Now, isn't that wonderful that I get to do this today? You know, it's a completely different take on how we interact. So even whatever we are doing, we're engaging, or we're just taking on board a role that we are playing. And then it becomes actually quite light. Does that make sense? And that's also the whole concept of us realizing the full potential of our consciousness, because our consciousness is capable of adopting any role that we want. So the negotiated self-interest. Yeah, go for it, Rachel.
I was mentioning, yeah, I was mentioning to somebody the other day that it's that, you know, when you're first sort of becoming aware of, you know, you've got these guides or these voices that you can hear and this, that, and the other, and then it gets to a point where you can't hear them anymore because you're actually them, you know, all those other aspects sort of come and you then become that whole thing. But you feel almost like, oh, I've lost my connection. I've lost that wisdom. I've lost that guidance. It's not there for me anymore. Oh, I must be lost. When in actual fact, you are it now. Do you know what I mean?
Beautifully said.
Yeah. So you are playing that role of like the way I look at it now is I'm playing the role of being Rachel, but I am all these other things as well, sort of watching and observing that I am playing the role of being Rachel, if that makes sense.
And as Rachel, which role or which mask shall I put on today?
Yeah.
And that's not about falsehood. It's not about doing things to please other people or being a chameleon. It literally does become, all right, I recognize that this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, it becomes a conscious engagement with life through that particular mask that's put on. So whether it's you're a business person and you're actually in a meeting, it's a mask that you put on in order to actually
and
function.
saying as well with a mask, but there is a mask, but there's also this integrity and this honesty and this
behind it,
being who I really am. Here's me. I'm playing a role, but this is who I am, rather than I'm not pretending to be this anymore.
Yes.
I can't lie anymore. Well, not that I did lie, but you know what I mean? I can't. I have to say the truth. I have to be integral all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and it's almost as though, you know, for a long time, I didn't know who I was. I didn't like who I was because that person didn't fit in with everybody else. Even growing up, I wasn't the same as everybody else. So I didn't like me because other people didn't like me because they didn't understand me and they didn't get me. So I wasn't a liked person. Well, I probably was, but from my perception, I wasn't liked because I didn't like myself. Do you know what I mean? So, but now it's a case of, this is who I am. I like who I am. You know, I don't want to be anybody else. You know, I like this being different, but I'm also, there's other aspects of me that, you know, I can go that way, or I can go that way, I can go that way. But then there's that feeling at the moment of, I'm going that way, but I don't know where it's taking me, so I'm trusting. You know?
There's also a huge element of conscious choice in what you're saying as well. So it's instead of us being led or guided by other people and external circumstances, when we become more conscious, when we become emptier, when we expand that space, we have a greater number of choices available to us in respect of how we then decide or choose to play out in the world. So it does become, that aspect becomes much, much clearer. That yes, we do choose. We choose how we want to interact with the world. I don't agree with this concept of that we fully create our own reality because of the way that it's actually been applied. In a sense, we do. And we co-create reality along with the collective and everybody else. So we are not on our own and solely responsible. We are responsible for the choices that we make. But this is, again, is perhaps a little bit of a paradox. We can choose technically the reality that we want to bring into being because of our connections into hyperspace. But do we fully create everything? on our own. Well, we can't, because if we're part of the overall field and the overall matrix, we don't create on our own. We co-create with everybody else. So we're not fully responsible for the circumstances that we actually are experiencing. We are responsible for how we choose to respond.
That's twice I've heard. Twice I've heard that today. So that's very interesting. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, because some people just dismiss everything as, well, you create your own reality, so you've actually chosen to do that.
Yeah.
Or well, you've created that, so it's up to you to fix it. And that often then results in a lack of compassion, and it can result in a lot of judgment, which is ego-based, because the truth is, the more conscious we become, the more compassionate we become, and the less we actually judge the unconsciousness that we are actually witnessing. So I think it's also really interesting, I don't know if you had something to say there, Bunny, to perhaps take note of where we still judge people, circumstances, events, things that we experience in life. Where do those judgments still come into play? Now, I mean, I know, for instance, I still carry judgments over people that abuse animals. You know, I can't bear it, because I just keep saying I can't comprehend a mind that would actually want to do that. You know, and I still carry judgments about other things, but it's really, really important that I actually step back from the judgment to view that individual with a depth of compassion, because they are operating from a space that is so dark within themselves that lacks that consciousness. So my role is not to judge them in that, as hard as it is. Very, very challenging thing to do is to step back. So I'm going to suggest that that's one thing over the next, between now and when we meet again, is to start taking a note in your journal of everywhere where the judgments actually still exist. Judgments of yourself, judgments of others, judgments in society, judgments of the world. Where do those judgments still exist, so that we can actually follow that through and begin to look at them, work with them, and dissolve them, transmute them, and work with them in a different way? Because suspending judgment does not mean not taking action when we see something happening in the world that is destructive. It doesn't mean not acting. But whenever we hold a judgment, we have an emotional investment. And whenever we have that emotional investment through those circumstances, we're actually going to drain our energy, or allow our energy and our potential to act to be drained from us. So it's going to be really important for us to take a look at that. So yeah, make a note of that, and I think it'll be interesting to examine those, because it's also an aspect of becoming more conscious, is becoming more honest. And as Rachel said, you're sort of operating in integrity, and this is all part and parcel of being in integrity, is being brutally honest with ourselves, and that's challenging. This is not an easy path to take. And that's why I always say to you guys, you know, like, I truly, truly honor every single one of you, because it's not an easy journey when we seek to be fully exposed, if you like, to let down all of those barriers. In order to let down the barriers and the limitations, we have to identify them. And expose ourselves to all of those aspects of self that have been hiding in the shadows. And judgments are one of them.
Yeah, one of the things I tend to do is, when I'm looking to see what's coming in, you know, like, I mean, animal cruelty is a massive thing for me. I really find it very, very difficult. And I always have done since I was a child. So that's something that, you know, I'm obviously trying to work on. But like, I always think to myself, if things are popping up on my newsfeed, for instance, or I'm out in the country and I see all these young cows and all these things anyway, you know, because being in the country is wonderful, but you're surrounded by farm animals, and that I find that difficult. So I tend to try now and say, okay, why am I seeing that? Is it to send love to them? Which is what I will usually do. If I see cows there and I know they're going to go for slaughter, I'll always stand there and say, I see you and I love you and thank you for giving your life or whatever. You know, I will make a point of doing that, even though it's breaking my heart. And it's the same with other things. I will look and I'll say, right, okay, that keeps popping up now. Either somebody said it or I've seen it on my news feed, or, you know, it's somewhere about. Why am I seeing that? Is there something I need to do? Is it a program that's still running inside of me that I need to look at and let go of? But now I try my best to be consciously aware of things that are repeating. Why am I seeing them?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it could be any one of those things, you know, or a combination of all.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, as well, is that we're not going to stop people from eating meat. It's not going to stop. Awareness of the way that animals are treated is really, really important to do. And in the meantime, what can we do so we can continue
Prepare
raising
to
awareness?
keep left after 2 miles.
Sorry. Love that. Mariah, I hope you were listening.
I wondered who was saying that.
Will you say that again?
I hope you were listening to that. No, keep left after 2 miles.
No.
Yeah, so I missed the point.
I loved it. Okay, does anybody have anything that they would like to share, add, contribute at this point?
Well, I want to follow up with Robin on her the brain balancing.
Yeah.
And your comment that you have to start over again if you don't follow through every day.
Yeah.
I don't know when the day starts.
Oh.
I don't know when that wave was. But anyway, I didn't have a chance to pull up my brain balancing for this period of time. I've been driving all night and I haven't done that.
Yeah.
And what's happened is that the brain balancing is coming in automatically. I'm seeing these visions.
Wow. What of the symbols?
The symbols, yes. One right after another in sequence.
Well, that is absolutely wonderful. And it means that it's continuing, because the whole principle of the brain balancing is until the new neural networks are fully laid down, you're busy building up a pattern. So in 24 hours, it runs in 24-hour cycles. If you do the symbols in 24 hours, you actually build up a certain level or amount of potential in respect to the new neural networks. So you build that up in 24 hours. If you then do another one and repeat it after 24 hours, you incrementally increase that potential. If all you ever did was 24 hours, left it for a day, and then picked it up again for a day, you'd be negating. So if you only did it every second day, you wouldn't be making a difference. If you do it sort of every day for a couple of months and then you leave it for a couple of days, that's not the end of the world. I mean, I used to, because I'm a rebel anyway, and I like to sort of challenge the rules. So I would kind of do it for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, and then maybe I'd have a day off. And I would have said, well, that's okay. One day in a couple of weeks is cool. It's not a problem. So it's only if you've done it for 2 months and then you leave it for 2 months, then you'll be back at square one.
Okay.
But what you're saying also, Mariah, is very, very interesting, because it's kind of yeah, there is a continuation that you have established a level of connectivity within your brain that recognizes those patterns, that is accepting them from hyperspace, if you like. So that to me is just absolute, that's just brilliant. Set the intention for that to continue.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I'll hear that on the replay, but I didn't catch all of that. But it has been fascinating because it keeps coming back until I acknowledge it. You know, I thought, okay, this is just in my head. Well, it was in my head, but the meaning was really significant, that this procedure that I've committed to for balancing is always there.
Yes, because you've made that commitment at all levels of
Yes.
being. So that's absolutely, yeah,
Yes.
very powerful.
And the other thing about the emptiness and the technology, the last
Yeah.
2 weeks, I've had tremendous challenges with the technology. And to the point that my issue went to the engineer board at Apple because they couldn't understand what was going on. It doesn't make sense with my synchronicity between devices. And then once I knew that perhaps it wasn't about the technology, well, on part level it was about technology, it was the concept of emptying all the old and starting new. That was the feeling, and the shocks from gate 51 and 57 of intuition and shock just put me into that place of realizing that I had to be in touch with cell by cell by cell.
Fantastic.
So when I acknowledged that, then answers came, which was pretty fascinating. And I got to say, have we got time for one more?
Yeah.
Okay. I had a week with a friend. The first time it was an internet friend, but colleague, but she came to visit for a week. And she has a different energy structure than I do. And energy and we were both going with the flow of what our bodies, our cells were telling us about how we were going to be together and what we were. And it was the most outstanding, unbelievable, awesome experience that I've ever had, really. Moment by moment. And it was like between the two of us, and then individual, and there was no judgment. It was just, we were there to be together and experience whatever we were to experience. It came time to take her to the airport, and my car died. The battery on the car died. And I thought, well, this is interesting. In the key fob, so I couldn't start the car. And all of a sudden, in this empty space, I said, it's not to worry. You'll make it on time. What we need to do is take apart the key fob, and we need to charge the key fob, the battery in the key fob, so it will start the car. We did that, and the car started, and everything was fine. But the message was we had to complete the electrical circuitry, the whole security, safety, and self-sovereign piece that we laid out for the week, that just unfolded. And that needed to be taken care of and brought to a level of awareness before she could go.
Wow. Very powerful indeed. Very powerful insights. And it's beautiful to be able to work and relate to circumstances in our life at that level. It's really, really deep insight. Thank you for sharing that, Mariah.
You're welcome.
Was that very recently? When was that?
It was just 2 days ago.
Did you see what's so interesting for me is that we moved into the 9th wave day, I think literally 3 days ago. I think it was either the 15th or it was the 15th. And then on the 16th, we moved into a new gap day column of 10 days. So it's really, really intensifying the energies of the 9th wave of this insight and this realization. So it's just really amazing timing that you had that magical experience with the depth of insight.
Well, it was like having a 3-year-old all the time, but with an awareness that was so powerful that needed to have a completion. You know, we had to come to resolution with it in some way.
Yeah.
Was the feeling, and we kept getting obstacles until we figured it out. Until we acknowledged the lesson, and then it was gone. Then it was okay. We were at a new level of transition.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks. So, Natalie.
Yeah.
Natalie was going.
Yes. Me. So I'm listening to everyone speak, and I'm remembering. So last time we met, we had the process that we were doing, and in the middle of the process, I got to the point where I saw that my problem was like self-love, self-worth, right? But before that, we got to the solution part. My husband came home with some people, and I totally got distracted, and I couldn't finish what happened. I couldn't finish the process, right? So I got distracted. So throughout these past couple weeks, it has been unfolding in layers, and it finally came. My husband had his wisdom teeth taken out, and he was just like, telling Mariah, he was just being the biggest baby ever. Like, he was just like, I'm in so much pain. But I was catering to him like day and night. And I finally had a moment of clarity, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is my life. Like, you are not realizing that it's like, every time you ask him if he's okay, why aren't you asking yourself if you're okay? Like, you need rest. You need food too. You need, and it was basically what the process was trying to tell me was that I needed to fill my cup up before I could fill anyone else's cup up. But I needed him to get sick for me to even become aware of that, right? And so then it's just been a conscious effort of, like you said, putting my time into me. What is the word I'm looking for? Like, just filling my cup up. Just saying, okay, well, if recognizing that I exist, and almost like I'm just as important as him, and by me doing those things, it was almost as if I was trying to overcompensate, like what Rachel and Lori were saying, where it's like, I'm not working either, so I feel like that's my job. I have to make sure he's fed and he's, well taken care of, and, and if I don't do those things, I feel like I'm lazy or I'm not worth, you know what I mean? And so it was definitely having that clarity of, hey, no, you're doing a lot. Your body needs to be able to handle all of the things that are happening. But even that awareness took such a toll on my body that it was really profound. And I think it started, now that I think about it, it started from the process. It just unfolded in a completely
That's lovely to have that realization as well, Natalie, because it's kind of like saying, you didn't complete it in the conventional sense of when we were actually all together, but you completed it because the awareness came in. You'd made that connection already, which is the challenge is driven by the potential, and your intention was going into the process was to realize the potential. It just unfolded for you in a different way.
Right. Like, oh my God.
Well done. That's amazing. That's beautiful. Thank you so much
Mhm.
for sharing that. And I think that's also good to remember, because it means that whenever we have a challenge or something that we are facing, if we can immediately connect with that aspect of self that has the solution already in hand, it's almost like we can step out of our own way, and even if we don't have chance to go into meditation and talk to the holodyne and go through the process, we can allow something to actually unfold with a lot more grace and ease
Mhm.
than we were able to do previously.
I find it interesting. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, I find it interesting that her husband interrupted the process.
Yes.
So in a sense, and he was also the answer. So in a sense, it just went perfectly.
Right. Right.
And I think it's also interesting that everybody's issues had to do with what they should be doing.
Yes.
Mhm.
When we've done so much for everybody all the time, we don't know how to be.
Mhm.
Very
So
valid point.
Yeah, and like Rachel's, thinking, what will people think? But yet, there she was for the whole congregation. Much bigger position of power and love, and yet she was worried about what should I be doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think, seems like that's what we're all worried about.
Yeah, and it's perhaps being able to share this and experience this, that we are then able to take ourselves beyond that constraint. I mean, here I am where I did not expect to be on the north coast of Scotland. I was down at my friends near Aberdeen. And it got to the point where I just couldn't do any work, and I thought, in order to do this meeting, I actually need to be in a quiet space, and having a 3-year-old around with his friends yesterday was with his friends yesterday. I thought, this is just not going to happen. And I found this delightful B&B, which is inexpensive, on the north coast of Scotland. And it happens to be in a direct line with John O'Groats, which is the northernmost tip of the country. And there's a part of me also saying, there's something bigger going on in respect of me being up here and being brought to this area. There's an alignment that I can sense, but I'm not aware of exactly what it is. And
whereabouts are you, Julie? Whereabouts are you?
I'm in a little village called Port Gordon, near Buckie. It's called near Buckie. It's called Buckpool, but they call it Buckie because it's in Scotland.
I used to live in Elgin.
Down the road.
Yeah, that's why my son was born in Elgin, because my husband was at RAF Lossiemouth.
Just now, you see, now isn't that interesting? So Rachel, I think it's almost like, I don't know, maybe there's a closing of the loop, maybe there's an energy feeding into the area, but I know that there's a reason why I ended up here. I felt that when I actually booked it, and the owners of the Airbnb are just delightful. Get along like a house on fire. It's like long lost family. It's just amazing. Anyway, so sometimes we really do need to. That's part of the journey that we're taking, is getting to the point of deepening our level of trust in the process. So, and in all of this unfolding and the unfolding of our ultimate potential, absolutely, without worrying about what we should or should not be doing, or that we missed something, or the beauty in what we see and experience unfolding with every one of you, I think, is just absolutely amazing.
I think it's that trust as well, isn't it? That we've always, because we didn't fit in, we've tried to fit in. So we've always tried to do what everybody else wanted us to do, and try and be the right person that we'd be liked, and all those things. And it's now a point where we don't care what people think, but there's an aspect of us that's still on automatic pilot, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a serious old soul probably one of the greatest old soul challenges is that finding your tribe, if you like, and fitting in. I want to just read something to you. Now, I came across this. It's to do with the 9th wave and the 8th wave and where we're at the moment. If I can just share you. And this is to be aware of during these cycles, because this really kind of shed a different light on things for me as well. It says, during nights of the 9th wave, flavors or nuances of the previous waves may come in more strongly. We may experience what feels like inexplicable periods of backtracking. So it can feel as if we've actually taken 2 or 3 steps back during the nights of the 9th wave. Being the misfits, we came in pre-wired for the 8th wave, long before it arrived. Therefore, we always felt out of sorts, not belonging, not thriving in the existing world paradigms. We are the forerunners of this evolutionary leap that is taking place, and the rest of the world has to catch up. The world's desire is to put everything into a defined box or category, and that's a distinct 7th wave quality. And when we try and fit in, we're trying to place ourselves back into one of those categories, and that's a 7th wave characteristic. So we're going to find that challenge coming up during the nights of the 9th wave, probably more strongly, as our desire to make something fit a certain shape or a certain box based on the 7th wave holograms. So the desire to put everything into a defined box or category is a distinct 7th wave quality. We are no longer under the daytime influence of that wave. So not only is the 7th wave operating in a night, the 7th wave itself, because that's a long night, that only turns upwards back to a day in 2031.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so we're in a very, very long 7th wave night. So we're dealing with a lot of those challenges. So the minute we go into the night of the 9th wave, it's an opportunity to heal more of those holograms and paradigms and challenges that have been put in place within the 7th wave infrastructure that we live within. So that's going to continue happening. So it means that we probably hold this thought too. We are probably not going to see massive change on this planet in respect of the structures, the boxes that have been put in place. We're not going to see those begin to change until 2031. So that's another.
Yeah. Is the 8th wave comes back up then as well, isn't it? Isn't it all around about the same time?
Well, the 8th wave has a wavelength of 360 days. So so it's every year we go from an 8th wave night, and we have a year of an 8th wave day. So right now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we are about to move into an 8th wave day. We've been in a 7th wave night and I think an 8th wave night. And of course, the 9th wave night is only 18 days.
I think what I've read then in the book is that when the 7th wave comes back up to the daytime, it's also a time when the 8th wave goes into a daytime, and they all, which means that everyone can then align more with the 9th wave. It's sort of all, it brings everybody up. That's what's been in my mind, because that's what I've been telling people in my group. Is trying to explain it as in, it is the wave of the hologram, and you get to choose. The way I've tried to describe it to people is that if you imagine you're creating a picture and you're given a palette with only a couple of paints in it, and now the 9th wave, you're given a palette with all these colors that you've never even imagined to create your picture with. That's the way I've been trying to explain it to people.
It's a good analogy. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. Hold that thought, because between now and 2031, we're going to have a year up and a year down and a year up and a year down of the 8th wave. So it's going to continue cycling until that. But yeah, you're right. At 2031, I think we have this confluence of all of the waves hitting an upswing at the same time. The 6th wave is still in the night, but of course the 7th wave is what's called in darkened unity consciousness. So it's all about control and the control systems.
And that's when most people were born, wasn't it? Because that came in 1700 and something, didn't it? So everybody, except for those born when the ninth wave came in 2011, wasn't it? So everybody before that was born during the seventh wave being the, you know.
Absolutely. So it means that when we came in, sort of many of us on this call, when we came in, we came in pre-wired for the 8th and the 9th.
Yeah.
Okay. Waves. So let's just see here. To exercise our abilities to think outside of the box, which is the 7th wave night, requires perceived challenges that stretch our abilities to think and create a more holistic approach. So when you work with the holodynes, you may want to sort of relate and connect with the solutions that exist within the 9th wave hologram. Okay? Does that make sense? So connect with them in that way. They are going to be the solutions that exist within the hologram of the 9th wave. This is one way of being able to harness and bring in the transformation and anchor it through our bodies, this 9th wave frequency. So the challenges, we know the potential answers already exist. We are forcing, as human beings, we are forcing a meeting ground between right and left hemisphere thinking because we are it in action. So here you've got the brain balancing, which is about balancing the hemispheres of the brain. We've got the new potentials coming in to actually alleviate some of the challenges that we are seeing. And we've got the conflict between left and right brain, which is being created as a result. So it's also that conflict within ourselves that we were talking about earlier, this between what we think we should be doing, what things should look like, and what is actually happening, this gap. So there's a lot of renegotiation and transformation it's huge, that is taking place over the next 12 to 13 years, that we are shifting through our physical bodies, because every single one of those holodynes is imprinted into the water in the microtubules of every cell in our body, and that's what it means to anchor this in physically. So you can see how we're sort of bringing these two concepts together. So here's some more information. The 8th wave pre-wave began as early as 1986. Being pre-attuned would have presented incredible health and emotional challenges to all of those who were wired for the 8th wave. Now, yeah, I can see some nodding. So there were a lot of challenges that people who were wired for the 8th wave actually experienced, whether that was in the waking up, physical health challenges, emotional challenges, psychological challenges, mental challenges, incredible health and emotional challenges leading to possible breakdown and breakthrough by the mid-90s, when the 8th wave influence started strengthening. We are finally now only getting into the groove of the 8th wave. So the 9th wave is not even featuring in the picture yet. It's starting. We're really at the beginning stages of the 9th wave. We're only starting to get into the groove of the 8th wave and the birthing expansion of the feminine consciousness. We're now facing the neutralization of all the patterning of the 6th and the 7th waves, which we have taken on board, and that would be ancestral, past life, and stuff that we've taken on board from the collective from the 6th and the 7th waves. The 8th wave is still hardwired for inequality, because the 8th wave still focuses on one aspect of the brain, which is the feminine. So it's still hardwired for inequality. So the ultimate reconciliation and healing can only come about through the 9th wave. Okay. The new wave, which is the 9th wave, has our back. So those of us that are wired and attuned to both of them, when we hit the daytime period like we have now, This is like really steps, leaps and bounds forward in respect of insights, awarenesses, consciousness expansion. Be aware that these are short 18-day cycles. So you're going to have a surge forward, and then it's quite likely that you're going to hit that 18-day downturn again when the 6th, 7th wave stuff comes back up, and then you're going, oh my God, what's going on now? You know, it's like I feel as if I've taken 2 steps backward. It's okay. It's absolutely okay, and it's perfect. So when we hit that, reach into, communicate with the Holodynes, reach up for the potential, understand what potential is actually driving that challenge, and bring it down, because that's an opportunity to inwardly anchor and reframe the 9th wave through our bodies. And there was another little comment here, which was, oh, I love this. Your mission in life is who you are. I know we've spoken about this before. Your mission in life is who you are. It is simply about owning your power fully and reaching for your potential. And this is really what we've been talking about. So we're going to do some more refinements of the work with the Holodynes as we actually move into and begin to see some of the judgments. That's why I said, you know, sort of it's journal work now, is to actually now identify some of the judgments that we have in our lives. And the other thing that I want to ask you guys, or that we're all going to do it. We're all going to do it. It's not just me asking you to do it. This is a group initiative and a community development, is to identify the judgments, to write down what it is that you want. What do you want? Everybody is so quick, and it's so easy to identify what they don't want. But how many people find it easy enough to articulate what it is that they do want? So what is it that you want for you? And then what is it that you want for the world, for the collective? And we're going to have a look and see where those synergies are, because there's bound to be, once those things are identified, an opportunity to synergistically connect into a collective initiative that we can energize as a group, so that it's not only about individual effort, it becomes about having each other's backs and developing a community initiative. So how does that feel for you guys?
Sounds great.
It resonates with me.
What was that? Was that Mariah?
Yeah.
Yes, I said it resonates with me.
Okay. Wonderful.
Mm.
Okay.
I've always found it difficult to say what it is that I want, because it changes all the time. I can never seem to hang on to that thing, you know, and then when I'm right, that's what I want, and then it's not important anymore, and then do you know what I mean? So that is always something I found difficult.
It's going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah.
To see what comes up as part of this process, because yeah, I know, but how much of what we want is driven by emotion, and how much of what we say we want is actually driven from source? So it's just start writing, and then over the 2 weeks you can review the list, and you kind of go, yeah, well, that's what I kind of like felt at the time, and is that really what I want? Is that really? And we've got time to sort of really connect with the essence of that, and what we want to take from it. So does anybody here have anything else that they would like to contribute or share today? I think we've had some wonderful understandings, and I think that's the beauty of operating as a group the way that we are, is that we learn. Yeah, Bonnie.
First, thank you. I mean, I had to eat a little lunch, and I observed that it might not be attractive. Is that a non-judgment?
Do you know what? You just said, I'm sorry, I really need to eat something.
I did, and I do at this time. But anyway, I can so relate to what everybody was saying. I have been so silent about moving to a home office when we moved here 10 years ago, and my husband, you know, thinking my name's Bonnie, I eat bon. He knows I don't eat bonbons, but he says it, and he acts like I'm here and have plenty of time, and I've done a lot for his business. But I too have felt guilty about going upstairs or taking time to put my oils on. And I'll tell you what, Natalie, I think we would kill each other if we were in the same house. And Lori, because he's loud, my office doesn't have a door. You know, he wants things at a certain time. So it's really good that we have two separate places, but I have still felt some guilt around that. And that whole idea at Rachel, what you're talking about, that understanding, especially in the past few months, where people have just said to me, I don't know what it is, but I feel so much better after having just talked to you. We may not have been talking about anything important, really, or maybe we have. So that sense of knowing our beingness. And I remember being mad when somebody said to me, or I got, you know, it's your beingness more than your doingness. I'm like, yeah, but I have to live in this world. My husband keeps telling me I'm from another planet. Yes, I know that. But still, you know, so it's nice to feel more comfortable in your own skin. And I think what we're doing in Jules, the highlights that you're bringing to us about I liked what you wrote in that article about the future self. And I told my client this morning about that as she went to another conference. And I said, your future self already knows all those potentials. You just have to go through. Well, she just lit up like I had given her, you know, $1,000 with just that simple way of putting it. So wow. I'm very appreciative of all of this. And as I've been listening, I realized, listening to everyone, that what we did in the last session is what unfolded for me the last 2 weeks. That was my unfolding because of what I had asked. So Dark Night of the Soul all had to happen to come out. And there's some little pieces surfacing now. So
that's very interesting.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But thank you. I do appreciate everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bunny. Yeah.
It's also letting go of that pattern, isn't it, of what do we judge worth as?
Yes.
You know, because we're still looking and saying, well, I'm not earning any
Yes.
money, I'm not doing
Yes.
this, I'm not doing that. So that, from a human perspective, I'm still, even though I say, you know, I don't judge my worth by how much money anybody or somebody's worth by how much money they earn or what they do or what qualifications they've got. But to a certain extent, I'm still putting those on myself.
Yeah.
You know,
that patterning is so strong in the collective and in the social community fields that we cannot help but be affected by it.
Yeah.
Because what's also happened is that the spiritual community as well has a lot of the new age stuff with the law of attraction, with all of that came out, somewhat distorted this idea that if you and kind of linked this idea that if you are spiritually successful, you will then also be financially successful. So we kind of also then judge ourselves spiritually, not just the role that we play.
Exactly, yeah.
When we haven't got all of that income that we think we should have now. Because if I've got it all right and I'm a master, you know, then we'll have all the money to show for it. And that's just absolute nonsense. It's a nonsense way of interpreting. And in fact, the whole idea about being empty is that you actually don't have the desire for any of that.
Yeah.
And you recognize inherently that you are worthy. You are, you know, as you were saying earlier. So yes, thank you for bringing that up. So I think that's something that we all still struggle with. I certainly struggled with it for many years. And that is only now, as my understanding of consciousness and the processes has deepened, have I been able to value myself in a different way. Yeah. But
we
yeah,
know
it's
it.
a tough
We
one.
know it happens. I know that money always arrives when I need it. I know that.
Yes, yes.
It always has, even before I knew I was on this journey.
Yeah.
We used to laugh and say, "Isn't it funny? The money always arrives." So then, why is this fear of?
Yeah.
Because I'm practically living off my savings, and so it's like watching them go, 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 and I know I have to let them go. I know that, but there's still that thing of. But what
There's
if
the
I'm
fear.
what if I'm wrong?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
The fear. What happens when it's all gone? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then what? No, then you take the leap of faith off the edge of the cliff. No, that's a real test. Let me tell you, I've
Yeah.
been pushed off
I
that
know.
bloody cliff a few times.
And you got nice strong wings now,
That's
haven't you?
okay. Yeah, believe me, you found your wings. That's such
Yeah.
fun. Yeah. So Laurie, you've been very quiet. Thank you, ladies. You've been sort of quiet during today.
Well, I can so much relate to what everyone's saying. It was funny, Rachel, when you just said, what if I'm wrong? I feel that way about, this whole idea of ascension and all of these things that we here can see, but the other 99.8% of the world can't see it or isn't operating. And this idea of putting myself into that fully and pulling myself out of the old world, that's where I get this, what if I'm wrong? What if there really isn't something else? So I as you said that, it just made me realize, is this struggle that I'm feeling really the lower part of myself still trying to hold on to the old world in case I'm wrong, in case there really isn't something else out there? I know that this struggle that I'm feeling, I'm creating it myself. Did you say, somebody said, oh, Rachel, you said, your husband said, just go ahead and do it. My husband says that too. Do it. I know this is your passion. This is what you need to do. It's me holding me back, and continuing to stay in this struggle. As I said, I used to teach people how to get out of that struggle. I don't know how to get out of it myself.
What is that wonderful saying though, Laurie, is we teach what we most need to learn. Sort of we find that we've spent time doing that with others. Now it's like, right, now you got to do this for yourself.
Well, and I used to know clearly, I was so comfortable in knowing what my role was. I was so comfortable in knowing why I was here, and I was doing that, and I was living that, and it was expressing through me, and I thought, I'm there, I've arrived, and it's just going to keep growing and expanding. But it did reach a point where the message got very clear. My clients don't need me in the same way that they used to. And I thought, okay, I'm okay with that. So just show me what's next. And this, whatever is next, seems so big.
Yes.
And so different and so foreign, where you were saying, Rachel, I talk to people about what turns me on, what I get excited about, and they just look at me like, oh my gosh, you're crazy. So what I really have done is isolate myself over this last several, almost a year. Just isolate myself, because the concepts that I'm seeing or interested in are so far beyond.
Yeah. And I think the challenge that we're facing at the moment in respect of realizing our full potential and doing the inner work that we're doing is to begin to bring ourselves out of isolation and back into the world, because that is where we are needed.
I
in a different way.
I've been getting that message and feeling motivated to do that. I haven't done it because I don't feel fully clear in who that is that's going out into the world anymore. or even where I want to go or how I want to show up. I feel very much like that butterfly stage where I'm just that soup.
That's the transitioning from the caterpillar. Yeah, that's the caterpillar that's actually in the soup that hasn't yet found its wings. But that is also a necessary part of the transformation process. Is that dissolving of everything that we thought we were, and to a large degree as well, the definitions of who we are become much more fluid. So the boundaries are less rigid, so we can't define ourselves in a way that we used to. I mean, when people say to me, what do you do? I don't even have an elevator pitch anymore. You know, they used to say, you know, this is what you need to do, is have like a 30-second elevator pitch. And I go, the more I move along this track, the less I'm able to put into words what it is that I do. And it's just become, you know what, I do all sorts of things. So this is kind of like, I just do all sorts of things. I work online, and I do a bit of thing, and I do some meditations, and then I get chatting with people, like I did with the owner of the Airbnb, and he's absolutely delightful. And we chatted for like 2 hours, and he actually says, this is the most I've actually chatted to any of the guests in the last 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And I went, now isn't that interesting? So I'm here for a reason, and that's just absolutely wonderful. And we weren't chatting about my work. We were just chatting about stuff.
Is he single, Julie? Is he single?
No, not at all. But Rachel.
Right, Rachel.
Not for me.
His wife's called Rachel. Yeah, his wife's called Rachel.
His wife's called Rachel. Oh, right.
His wife's called Rachel. Yeah, she's delightful. But it was really just, it was just showing up. It was just showing up without a label. It was like, well, I'm the package. And it doesn't matter. I don't need any label in order, or anything in order to define me, to be able to show up. I'm just me. And like I said, I'm just less and less able to do that. So it's just, so it's time to be out there. But I understand, but take that out, cancel. And I understand. And I understand, because I have also been through those internalized periods where I just did not want to interact with people at all. I just did not want to be out there. And it almost becomes a forced putting myself back out there, and then realizing that I don't need all of the labels that I actually thought I did. You know, it's like doing the telesummits, and they ask you for a bio, and I'm going, and I listen to other people, and I'm like a master of this coach, and I'm going, oh, well, that's good. That's nice for you. You know, what do I do? You know what? Yeah, I don't know. I can't even do a bio anymore.
Somebody asked me the other day, what is it that I do? And I was like, well, the only thing I can say is that I'm an intuitive conduit for healing energy through the diamond light.
And they look at you and go, what are you talking about?
I used to, when anyone asked me, I'd just be like, I work for the universe. What? What do you do? I just work, whatever I'm told. I just work for the universe.
Yes. Absolutely. Do you know what? And that's the whole thing. Is the thing is, as an old soul too, you've been through so many lifetimes with all of those costumes on, with all of those, who calls it meat suits? You, Laurie, you're the meat suits. Where you've been the priestess, you've been the alchemist, you've been the magician, you've been the pagan, you've been the slave, you've been the sage and the conduit. You've been all of those things, and it's kind of like, okay, well, those are all of the things that I tried on, and now it becomes just part of the mask. And it's this kind of like a sense of being tired of trying to fit into somebody else's idea or definition. And in respect of lots of people in the New Age community, we still try and define ourselves by the characteristics and the confines and the definitions that have been put out there. You know, you're an ascension coach, you're a spiritual leader, you're a master, you're a teacher, you're a whatever, you're a guru. What about you just you? You know, and it takes a great deal of trust to show up that way. So it's like baby steps out of the cocoon once the cocoon is actually ready to break down. The butterfly wings are already there. You're not a caterpillar anymore. The wings have formed. It's just time now to sort of peep out of the cocoon and go, well, now I'm going to test these wings. But yeah, the negotiated self-interest story that we mentioned earlier on, I think is really interesting. And that's something that you may want to also explore over the next week or two before we get together again. And I've just made a note here. So, all being well, that I have some time to do this, I'll get the Holodyne process recorded for you, and I will make a note of some of the 6th and 7th wave challenges that are likely to show up when we hit the 9th wave nights. Actually, it's going to be 6th, 7th, and 8th, because we're actually in, I think, a night of the 8th wave at the moment as well. So I think it would be helpful to be able to identify some of the issues that you guys experience in respect of the way that the waves are impacting us at that moment in time. So I'll make a note of some of those.
That book's very helpful if people have, want to read it. Yeah.
What book is that, Rachel? What are you talking about?
I'll grab it because I've got it handy. 2 seconds.
It's Carl Kalleman. The 9th wave. There's an echo. There you go.
Is it back to front? It's the 9 waves of creation. Yeah, 9 waves of creation. And it's got graphs in it. It's got lots of explanations inside it about, what's happening. The beginning part of it is quite sort of scientific. Well, it was over my head. It was over my head at the beginning, but then when I got into it, it was really good, and I went back and read the beginning, and I understood the beginning after I'd read the rest of it, because I am
at a part where I finally said, I finally understand something that he's saying here. I said, the whole 3 or 4 chapters, I had no idea what he was talking about.
Who is this?
On
the book.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I was telling my husband, I said, I finally found a part where I get what he's saying, because the whole first 4 chapters, I just had no idea what he was trying to say, but I kept plowing through it. So I finally got to a place where something made sense to me. So it's good to know that it continues.
It's like it joins the dots. When I read it, it was almost as though all the things that I sort of thought I knew, but nobody else seemed to know it, were all sort of falling into place. And I was like, oh, thank goodness for this book. I mean, I keep saying to people, you must get this book and everything, but,
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of go, all right, when they're ready. The other one that I would recommend, but I will put it in the email, is the Victor Vernon Woolf one called The Dance of Life. As he actually goes through a lot of the concepts that we have been, or that I have been sort of bringing up for you, this whole idea of holodynes. And please have a look through, because that article with the 10 points in it, the science of potential, what does he call it? Science of survival, very powerful. The science of survival gives a wonderful broad brushstroke overview of those 10 key concepts and principles, most of which we already know. We know that we live in a holographic universe. We know that there's only, sort of 3% of the world or reality that is actually visible to the naked eye. 97% of reality is invisible and beyond this dimensional space and time. It exists in hyperspace, basically. Now, Vernon Wolf is also, he's a quantum physicist, he's a physicist and a biologist, and he's actually done psychology degrees. He's got multiple doctorates and degrees, and yet he has a very easy way of writing and putting his points across. So I'll send you the link that you can have a look at his book, The Dance of Life. It's something that is also worth bearing in mind. And like I say, sort of easy enough to get to. You can skip over the tough science stuff. You'll get the essence of what he's saying.
So Jules, are we meeting in 2 weeks? I'm going to have to pop off in a minute. Are we meeting on a Saturday?
Yes, the next one is going to be a Saturday. I just need to work out the dates, because tomorrow, I must just tell you guys, I'm doing a diamond gathering tomorrow with a process, because tomorrow is a 111 day. I was going to do it at the beginning of the Gap Day column, and it didn't work out that way because there was a 3-year-old in the house. So I couldn't even get the note out. So that didn't work. And then I thought, okay, well, there's a reason that it hasn't. Let me just take a look at the Tolkien and the other dates. And I was, it was up in Scotland, and I came back and I said, I've realized why it didn't work, because the 19th, which is tomorrow, is a 111 day.
Yay!
So it's a diamond day. And the 29th of October is an 11/11 preparation day. So it really is about opening the window and anchoring through the diamond frequencies of our being, some of the greater aspects of the new hologram. Anyway, so when is the 29th? That's really where I was getting to.
It's Sunday.
It's the 29th of Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So the 28th, which is in fact another 111 day, which would be really good. 111 and 11/11, aren't they wonderful this month? 10 days time. Yeah, so if you put the 28th in your diaries, we'll aim for the 28th, which is a Saturday. I really don't know yet where I'm going to be.
Thank you.
Have you put the link up for tomorrow, Julie?
No, not yet.
No,
I'm going to do it tonight. So the next one is going to be the 28th of the 10th.
Ladies,
Yeah, very interesting energies this month. Hey? Okay, thank you, Bunny.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye, Bonnie.
Bye-bye, Bonnie.
Bye.
Bye, Bunny. Lots of love. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to share, add, whatever, before we close off for today?
I just want to say that I actually got to study in person with Dr. Carl Kalaman.
Oh, wow.
Did you?
Yes, his first book, The Purposeful Universe. And I don't even remember when it was. It was between 10 and 15 years ago. And he was looking at, he really felt like some major event was coming with 2012, which of course it did, but it wasn't like we expected. And so he got really quiet after that. And I didn't know he had put out this other book until I heard you speaking, wherever I heard you speaking on Beyond the Ordinary show or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so that's what drew me to you, was like, oh my gosh, because I resonated with everything he said, and then it just kind of got quiet for so long. And it was really good to bring it back up again.
That is so interesting. Thank you for sharing that, Robin. And what a wonderful opportunity that must have been. And you can imagine also what he went through.
Yes,
with
yes.
all of the hype that had been building up about 2012, right. And there were people who are quantum physicists talking about this like instantaneous leap in consciousness that was actually going to happen, and it would, or you know, it's quite possible that it would happen overnight. I don't know whether Johann Kalaman said that, but I know there were a lot of other people talking about that. There's 3 days of darkness and 3 days of, and I was going, I'm not feeling that. But still, with the general hype that had been built up around the event, one can almost understand why he possibly went quiet around that. But he's got an amazing mind.
Right. And
his
whole story is so interesting. Just that he, you know, wasn't even his area of expertise, but he was resonated with it. And, you know, being the old soul, here he is going out on a limb, thinking ahead of his time. And I'm sure when December 21st, 2012 was over, everybody was pointing their fingers saying, ha ha, you know. And so, yeah, I'm really glad to see that the next book came out.
And that there's a lot of support for what he's saying. And it's well researched. There's some amazing information. He's brilliant at putting it across. I mean, I value the research, and it's very aligned with the likes of Randall Carlson's work, who's a sacred geometer and a researcher, very aligned with a lot of other well-respected academics and teachers of the new way of thinking, the new consciousness movement.
He does have a website, a Facebook page, Robin.
Oh,
Carl Kellerman does have a Facebook, because sometimes he does interviews on like Blog Talk Radio with people, and he'll put the link up on there as well. So
I'm trying to learn Facebook, but I can't get into it all that much. But I'll check it out. Thank you.
Rachel's probably one of the most proficient on Facebook. Natalie, I think.
That sounds awful, doesn't it?
I know. I pop in and pop out, and I don't do a heck of a lot.
I think it's that need for some sort of contact, because there's hardly anybody around here with me that I can connect with. Even people who say that, you know, oh, I'm awake, and all these things. They still don't think like I do. You know, I mean, John often says to me, there's nobody like you around here. And you find somebody, I mean, I can't even do groups anymore. This is why I'm trying to do my own group. Because, it's funny, because this Monday, 3 people had asked, or a woman had asked, could she and 2 friends come and join my group? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. She's done groups before. And one of the man that was going to come, it was 2 women and a man. The man that was going to come has, you know, he puts out on all these things that he does, you know, he's awakened, he's a Pleiadian starseed, and he's done all these, and if you come to his meditation groups, be prepared to be expanded, and and every time I put my name down to go, something would happen and I couldn't connect, because I thought, oh, this is the group, I need to connect with this group. I couldn't get there. So she'd asked me, could she and 2 people come for my group? And I was, yeah, that's fine. That's, you know, and I found out he was one of them. And then suddenly this fear came over me, because she tagged me in a message, a Facebook message, which was actually her talking to them about me, but she tagged me in it, saying, I think, you know, this is what North Wales has been waiting for. And I was like, what? Oh my God, you know, there's this huge sort of expectation that they're going to come, and this is going to be this wonderful group. So I was a bit panicked. And then one woman backed out and said, sorry, she couldn't come. And then the other 2 didn't turn up and didn't even message me. And I thought, that's fine. Obviously, I mean, there was a storm going on, but I still didn't get a message to apologize. But it's really interesting how even people who I'm thinking are out there, I'm still not being able to connect with them.
Yeah.
It's also, sorry, Robin.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to say, I appreciate the posts you do put on the group, the Old Souls group, and I found a lot of interesting information from them.
Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely, because Rachel, I think, posts a lot more than what I do. Thank you, Rachel.
And I went to Ireland with a group, met up with a group of women who were supposed to be, like you just said, all that. And I was having a great time until right about midweek, and I got scolded by the teacher. And I realized all it was, I asked too many questions. You know, so I had to just kind of go silent for the rest of the week to keep things on even keel. You know, it was her group, so, you know, but she didn't like the questioning mind or the someone thinking outside the box that she was providing.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
That's always good for us to see that, though, isn't it? It's always good for us to see, because then, like for me, what I took from the other day was, you know, I could have gone into that mindset of, oh, what is it about me? Or it's, you know, I'm no good and all this. And instead, I stepped back, even though I'd been a bit fearful, thinking, what if they're disappointed? And I thought, well, if they're disappointed, that's about them, not about me. You know, and so you get to see that in actual fact you've shifted so much of what the fears would have been if you know, if you don't have that opportunity to view that, yeah, you're coming from a different place now, isn't it?
Right. You just have to, and I did that initially. It was like, oh my God, what did I do? But then when I thought about it, I hadn't done anything except
other than ask questions.
I mean, you come to, yeah. Any teacher should be able to answer questions, I would think, and be prepared to.
Or be open to those questions being asked, even if they don't know the answers.
Exactly. And I think that was part of it. She wanted to know the answers and didn't have them, but instead of saying, wow, that's an interesting question, she felt put on the spot, I guess.
Yeah, and then doesn't like it. And that's interesting in and of itself. Yeah, that's when you can kind of step back and perhaps see some of the energy dynamic. And I always look and I go, well, for so many people that need to profess how awake and aware they are, I actually put a big question mark around whether they actually are. Because if you are, there's no need to proclaim it. You just are. It's only the personality that wishes to label oneself as such.
Yeah.
In reality, the more awake you are, the less need you have to actually let people know, the more you engage with life in a completely different way. So it's a very interesting discussion and insights from all of that. Thank you. And it's very interesting to notice where we may judge situations and individuals like that. Because I know I do. You know, my buttons get pushed, not by being challenged. I don't mind anybody asking questions, and I'm quite okay with saying, I don't really know the answer to that one, or that's new, you know, and that's an interesting perspective, whatever it might be. But sort of in respect of other people seeing what I feel is blatantly ego projection. And we've all got this sacred mirror projection stuff going on. I find myself going into judgment. You know, I put my hands up and go, okay, yeah, so I'm judging that. So I need to put that onto my judgment list rather than being able to view it as part and parcel of their journey. And where I feel I perhaps don't measure up to other individuals. Big lessons for me where my buttons are pushed.
I think judgment is a tool. I mean, we get triggered and then it's a necessary thing. We don't want no judgment because we're depriving ourselves of a tool. When judgment comes, then it's time to look at something.
Yes. It's a conduit for, I find that there are probably different semantics and different words we can use, Robin. That's a good point. I like the idea or the concept of critical thinking. Often, rather than judgment, critical thinking and discernment. So having discernment about things so that I know what's right or wrong for me, there's something that I may be picking up energetically. So sometimes we might label that judgment, having the capacity to judge certain situations and what is right or not for us. But you're absolutely right in respect of judgment being a tool. It's where and for me, it's a tool for the mirrors or the reflections that I'm seeing. It's a tool for saying, okay, so my button's being pushed here. What is it that's being pushed? What is it I need to look at? Yeah.
Right.
So it's more suspending the finger pointing that goes along with judgment. Does that make sense? It's like turning the finger around and going, it's my button that's being pushed. What is it that I need to understand from this? Yeah.
Yeah. It's not staying in judgment, but just when it comes saying,
being
okay,
aware.
do I need to send compassion to this person?
Or
Yeah.
just be in compassion. Sometimes we don't even need to send anything. We just need to be in that space where we open up and allow, that's part of their journey. So it was an opportunity, I think, to examine where the ego or personality has actually come into play.
I think it's good as well not to beat yourself up when you notice your egos come into play, because I think, when we're on this journey, we think, oh my goodness, I mustn't judge because, if I judge, that means I'm a bad person. If you hear that your ego's kicked in, and that other aspect of you that's become aware of, well, actually, I think my ego's kicked in there. So now I have a choice. Do I run along with my ego, or do I step back and observe it and say, okay, so what am I being shown because the ego's kicked in? There's options, isn't there? And I think when you're first starting out on this journey and you're told judgment is a dreadful thing, because if you judge, it's a terrible word, and and if you get called judgmental, oh my God, I'm judgmental. That's one of the things that repeats for me when I start seeing things and I think, oh, I don't like that, and and then I go, oh, hang on, am I being judgmental? Is that my ego? And I'm like, oh, I can't interact with that thing because I can't tell, am I being judgmental or is my ego kicked in? I'll best leave that alone and not have an interaction with it. So that's another thing I know I'm looking at is, am I judgmental, or is it just that I have a different perspective on it?
Because making a judgment, absolutely, making a judgment on something can simply be an act of critical thinking. And an observation. It's where the judgments govern our reactions and responses. It's where we almost lose our sense of having a choice in the way that we respond to something, which is where we then need to examine the internal dynamics. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Where that's where our ego takes over.
And then sometimes you get too much in your head then.
Yeah.
You're trying to say, well, hang on, am I being this? Am I being that? Instead of, just, well, okay, that came in and now, but we want to be, because we feel we're this good person, we want the world to see that we are, even though we don't care in a way. Do you know what I mean? But we want to, I suppose we want to bring our best self to the world, don't we? We don't want to be bringing something that might have these flaws or something, because if we, and it doesn't matter if we do that,
Instead, it's bringing our whole self to the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you, ladies. You guys are actually so wonderful. That's the beauty of sharing time and space with old souls, because it's such a wonderful opportunity to learn from the wisdom that each one brings. And I said this before to you guys, is that I honor every one of you, and I absolutely thank you for being here and sharing this forum. And thank you. So hopefully, bearing in mind time, I will get the new Facebook group up.
I was just thinking before, Julie, with that, it might be nice somehow if we can put on there what day we're in on the 9th wave. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that that's coming up on our new group, so we know.
Yeah. So we know sort of what the patterning is. Yeah. And I was thinking, by the way, is just to really call it the journey of magnificent souls, or the unfolding of magnificent souls, because that's really what this is. Yes, old souls falls into that category. It's unfolding the magnificence.
I love it.
Of your full soul. How does that sound? Do you like that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mariah, you've been very quiet. Are you watching the road?
I'm hoping that no directions pop out on the recording. Yes, it's fine. Sounds good. The name sounds good. Dialogue is always awesome. and thought-provoking and heart-provoking, and sets me up for the next 2 weeks until we meet again.
Okay, wonderful. And we'll certainly extract some of these 6th, 7th wave issues and challenges, because I think we've all experienced them during these past 2 weeks. So it's like it's come into awareness for us. And if we can continue to refine that through the cycles, it's going to make our journey much more graceful. I don't necessarily want to say easier, because it doesn't mean we won't have challenges, but hopefully a bit more graceful and more deepen our level of insight, which is really about the unfolding of magnificence of your souls. So thank you.
Yay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing your energy and sharing it. Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Love you all.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.